Malik Monk is coming back to Sacramento. At least he intends to, once he is allowed to sign the deal. Woj reporting Malik Monk intends to sign a 4-year, $78 million deal that includes a player option to return to the Sacramento Kings. And this is the best news we could have gotten. It's way earlier than expected, but I think this just proves, how everyone, all these players, they're talking to teams when they're not supposed to be. Because you have to think that he was gauging interest from other teams, and it just wasn't quite there. And so it's still just like a massive win for the Kings to get this locked up so early. I thought for sure he was going to go and test free agency. And I set a percentage of how much I thought he was going to return earlier, and I was like 60% or something like that. And like it had slowly been going down, and I think I was pretty 50-50 on whether he was going to return or not. And so for this to happen, I mean, it's just so amazing. I don't have to change my lock screen on my phone. Malik is the center of this poster over here. Like he's the most exciting player on the Kings for me. And I'm seriously going to probably celebrate after I record this by buying a Malik Monk jersey because I've wanted one, but like he could have left. And so I wasn't going to do that unless he stayed. And now that he's staying, I mean, it makes the entire offseason so much easier for the Kings because I was literally, as it was happening, I was preparing to make a video talking about why Zach LaVine might be the answer if Malik Monk doesn't re-sign with the Kings. But now that Malik's re-signed, it means the Kings don't have to go after Zach LaVine, and probably, I mean, there's no way you go after Zach LaVine now. Probably not going to draft a guard, and it means that you can divert your resources and your assets into trying to improve on the wing. I personally think that the Kings should consider starting Malik Monk now. Now, that's definitely not necessary, but just from the standpoint of you have Fox, Monk, Keegan, and Sabonis now. That's your core. Of course, Monk could always just still come off the bench. Maybe him signing is because he got a promise that he would start. I mean, it's possible, but I do think that we could see him become a starter at some point on this team. And the reason that I think that is when you look at the other options that the Kings could start in this team. Sure, Keon Ellis showed that he is a good option, and hopefully that will carry forward, but I feel like we didn't have a big enough sample size to really be sure that that's going to work. And I think now that Malik Monk has re-signed, I think Kevin Huerter will probably be traded. But the reason that this makes things so much easier for the Kings is because with the way that the salary cap works, if Malik walked, the Kings were not getting that money back. Him signing here does not take away how much money the Kings can spend, unless you're considering like spending over the first apron or second apron, things like that, or spending into the luxury tax. But just from the standpoint of this offseason, is we couldn't use that money anywhere else if it wasn't for Malik Monk. And if Malik Monk left, we would have had to just probably make massive changes to try to get a ball handling guard. And then on top of that, still fix the hole that we have on the wing. And now we just have to focus on the wing slash big problem that we have and fill that hole. And we still have the draft and trades in terms of the Harrison Barnes and Kevin Huerter contracts to do that with. This is just such a surprise to me that this is coming out right now and that he didn't wait. And now, of course, it says he intends to sign. And so that, it always makes me, a little nervous until it's completely done. But when you see something like this, like 99, maybe 999 times out of 1,000, it is locked down for sure that the guy is going to sign. I mean, maybe the only time where you saw differently was like the DeAndre Jordan situation where like, I think, right? It was him where he was going to sign like to the Mavericks, I think, or was it to sign somewhere else? And I don't remember the situation. He said he was going to sign somewhere and he didn't. But when you see Woj reporting with that breaking news from Adrian Wojnarowski graphic, it's pretty much confirmed. Malik Monk signing does mean that the Kings are a luxury tax team, which is interesting because what does that mean for what the Kings are going to do moving forward? We hope that Vivek is willing to be a tax team for this team. We hope, but we don't know that. And so what we have to hope is that we don't just start shedding salary, right? The reason we got Kevin Huerter was because the Hawks were shedding salary. We don't want to be the team doing that. Hopefully that's not what we do now. And hopefully we use our mid-level exception that we still have. And that's something to take note of, is we still have the mid-level exception. Hopefully we still use that even though we are in the luxury tax. I would love a guy like, Najee Marshall or someone like that in that mid-level range. And with this deal, it really means that the Kings just are in such a good place. Like, obviously, we're in the tax, but we're in a good place in terms of the contracts that we have. We have most guys locked up beyond next year, and we have the core locked up, like I said, on good contracts for multiple years, and with all of our assets, pretty much, except for one first-round pick, to still improve. There's been a lot of rumors, mainly today, just swirling around the NBA, and so there's talk about the Kings not really being interested in the draft, and so they might be looking to trade the pick, and we've heard that before, but I think that's just a sign that the Kings almost certainly aren't going to go into next season without making changes to this roster and without balancing it, because it's an extremely unbalanced roster still. And signing Malik Monk to this deal, it continues that imbalance. And so that's why I said Kevin Huerter's probably gone, I would assume. I mean, he doesn't have to be, but it would just make sense with his contract and the position that he plays. I actually said this morning, I tweeted out, it feels like Zach LaVine is going to be a King, just because he's always been a guy that's been mentioned around the Kings. Now I don't feel that anymore. Now that shifts to Kyle Kuzma, because Kyle Kuzma always rumored around the Kings. Now it feels like he's going to be a King, just because it feels like the Kings are going to make a move. And so it always comes back to Kyle Kuzma. And so let's do a little thinking. So De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk, Keegan Murray, Kyle Kuzma, Domantas Sabonis. That's pretty good. And then you have Keon Ellis. It depends who goes in the trade. Would it be Barnes and Huerter, or just one of them plus other filler? I don't know. So you have Keon still, maybe one of Barnes or Huerter, Davion, Lyles, and whoever you get as a center. That's a pretty good start without even considering who you could sign in free agency. If Malik Monk didn't resign, I mean, the Kings could have been screwed. Like, it would have been just a disaster. And so it's just so amazing. And it makes it even better that he's like, I mean, he's a fan favorite player. Like, he's the most exciting player on the team. He might be my favorite player on the team. And so I'm just so happy. When I saw the Woj tweet, I had to like go in, I had to like read it twice. I had to press on Woj's, profile, make sure I'm not getting duped. Like, I was so surprised. But then I was literally jumping up and down. And yeah, it's just amazing. And while I'm talking about this, I might as well talk about some of the other stuff that's been going on. There was just this has nothing to do with anything for the future, but there was just a report around why the Kings, or why Pascal Siakam didn't want to sign with the Kings or get traded there and then, sign. And it was because the Kings front office like said some bad things about him, and then it got back to him. And I'm just like, what? How did it get back to him? Was the Raptors front office like leaking stuff back to him? That's just so weird to me. And also, not too mad about that. Pascal's a great player, but he's getting up there in age. And the reason the Kings front office was probably, saying some bad things about him is probably because he's getting up there in age and he doesn't fit the team perfectly. And so they're just like telling the truth and trying to drive the price down. But that was just a funny report to me. I had all these plans about content, talking about Zach LaVine, and now that's just all gone. And I couldn't be happier that I don't have to talk about Zach LaVine. If Malik had gone, I actually think Zach LaVine wouldn't have been a bad option despite his contract. I actually think he fits really well. But that was definitely a plan B, not a plan A. This is plan A. I wonder if, he went to the Magic, he went to the Sixers, if his agent went to them and if they kind of rejected him. Like I wonder, or did he not go and talk to really anybody and he just wanted to stay in Sacramento? I don't know. One thing about Sacramento is we don't attract free agents, but we keep our own. And that kind of continues that trend. And so that's nice. I also wonder regarding around just him. I mean, he wants to start. He said that he wants to start, but also I wonder if he's okay with still coming off the bench because he didn't win Sixth Man of the Year. Like, was him getting robbed of Sixth Man of the Year actually a good thing for the Kings? And so he re-signs because he's okay with coming off the bench because he's like, I want to win Sixth Man of the Year because we know it was important to him. He kept saying it was important to him, and he was obviously pissed when he didn't win it. And so, I don't know. It's just it's so weird to me that he resigns at this point. I want to know all of the reasons, but without knowing all of the reasons, it's just like all I can say is thank you, Malik Monk. Thank you so much.